from the air this morning shows floodwaters surrounding homes, barns, and cars south of Dallas. Winds tore roofs off homes. A few have been leveled. Thousands are without power.
Tornado right behind me.
Tornado struck across north central Texas Sunday afternoon, bringing high winds reaching up to 80 miles per hour. Menacing storm clouds could be seen for miles, bringing with them heavy lightning.
At least 45 people have been killed and more than 200 injured after a freak mini-cyclone swept northwest Pakistan. The storm on Monday tore roofs off buildings and brought down trees and power poles.
Earthquake and social scientists from around the world met a week ago in Kathmandu to try to figure out how to prepare this area with poor building structures and a lot of people for a disaster like this. So although experts have said in many areas that a quake is due, they don't exactly know when. So let's break down the science and talk to someone who's actually smart about this stuff. And Paul Earle from the U.S. Geological Survey. Paul, help us a little bit this morning, talk about these earthquakes, because a lot of folks, even in America, live along quake zones or in fault areas. So let's talk about some of the indicators that experts had about this particular quake in Nepal. Why did they always think that there was a quake that was coming there?
Well, Sam, this area, the basic structure here is fairly well understood. You've got India moving to the north and colliding into Asia and sliding underneath Asia. And this collision creates earthquakes. You get a situation where the stress builds up, it doesn't release in a smooth way, and you get these snaps, which are earthquakes. And in this particular earthquake, there was a large patch of the earth, a large fault that broke. It was about 100 kilometers by 80 kilometers, so about 60 miles long patch of this fault broke.
Paul, I mean, it just seems to me that in this day of, you know, there's new science, new apps, new incredible things that happen every day. But still, earthquakes are one of the things that just frighten me, because it seems like the scientific community doesn't know as much as I feel like we should in this day and age. So why is it that we don't know when one of these things is going to rupture and let go and cause a 7.8 earthquake? You know, is there more measuring that we need to do? Is there more money that we need for research? Why do we not know more?
Well, actually, we do know quite a bit. We can't tell you exactly when and exactly how big an earthquake is, but we can understand where earthquakes are more likely to occur. And we do something that's similar to you do with weather. We forecast, so we can forecast and when earthquakes will occur. And actually, we're not so concerned with exactly the magnitude of the earthquake. We're actually concerned more with how much the ground is going to shake, because that's what does the damage. And we do these forecasts that that predict how much shaking a given place will have in a given amount of time. And that's why we knew this was a danger area.
Okay. Is there take-home information? Is there information today that people at home, is there another place in the world right now that has that high forecast probability?
There are many places in the world that are prone to earthquakes, and also many places in the world that are prone to earthquakes with fragile infrastructure. And you can go to the USGS website and you can see hazard maps of the US, and I think there are links there to hazard maps of the world. And this shows where the ground is more likely to shake at high levels. And if you combine that with the population and the infrastructure, you then can get the risk and the potential danger from an earthquake.
Severe storms are threatening many across the south this morning after several tornadoes touched down overnight. A new view from the air this morning shows floodwaters surrounding homes, barns, and cars south of Dallas. Winds tore roofs off homes. A few have been leveled. Thousands are without power as the threat continues this morning. Arzo Dost of our Dallas-Fort Worth station KTVT is in Rio Vista, Texas. Arzo, good morning.
Good morning. As the sun comes up here in Texas, we're starting to get a better idea of all the damage after the storms. This is the tractor of a trailer on its side. Right behind it, a canopy blown over from a gas station. And this is just some of the damage all across the region.
Tornado right behind me.
Tornado struck across north central Texas Sunday afternoon, bringing high winds reaching up to 80 miles per hour. More twisters touched down well after dark, downing trees and power lines, tearing off rooftops and spreading debris across roads. This big rig tanker trailer overturned onto its side.
We've got softball-sized hail going on, and I just got, yep, I'm okay. I just got glass all over me.
Softball-sized hail pelted homes and cars, blanketing highways, and keeping some of the most experienced storm chasers on their toes.
Oh my gosh, this is the biggest hail I've ever seen.
Warning sirens blared across counties well into the morning. Menacing storm clouds could be seen for miles, bringing with them heavy lightning. One passenger aboard a flight to Dallas captured the electric intensity from the air. But back on the ground, heavy flooding has left many roads impassable. A major concern now is all the flooding, and as people are waking up, they're starting to really assess the damage. The good news is no reported injuries after the storms.
Arzo Dost in Texas, thanks.
At least 45 people have been killed and more than 200 injured after a freak mini-cyclone swept northwest Pakistan. The storm on Monday tore roofs off buildings and brought down trees and power poles. Army teams have been sent to the worst-hit area of Peshawar city to help with the rescue. An official in Peshawar said the region has never experienced such a devastating windstorm before. The storm speed in the open reaches over 120 kilometers per hour. The wind, accompanied by heavy rain and hail, disrupted power supplies and communication services and damaged infrastructure and crops. Heavy weather on Monday forced the Pakistani military to cancel 2 flights to Nepal, taking supplies to survivors of Saturday's earthquake.
Iran has intercepted a commercial cargo ship, and the United States seems to be getting involved.
Yeah, the Pentagon watching this very closely and more. In fact, I want to bring in our chief national security correspondent, Jim Sciutto. Jim, what do you know?
John, it's really a remarkable confrontation here. This ship, to be clear, was not a U.S. ship. It's a Marshall Islands flagged ship, and no Americans on board, but it was a U.S. guided missile destroyer, the USS Farragut, that answered a distress call. Elements from the Iran Revolutionary Guards, they have their own navy. They attempted to force this ship into Iranian waters. The ship's captain refused, issued a distress call. The Iranian ships then fire across the cargo ship's bow. This is a big cargo ship. It's owned by Maersk, one of those big cargo lines. They fire shots across the bow. The captain gives in, but by this point, the U.S. Navy has already answered the distress call. They were some 60 miles away when it happened, so they weren't, right on top of the ship. But the ship is now in Iranian hands, and I'm told by a senior U.S. military official that even as it heads now further into Iranian waters, it is U.S. warplanes that are monitoring its status. This is interesting, John and Kate. You'll remember last week we had an Iranian convoy headed towards Yemen, and you had U.S. Navy ships, including an aircraft carrier, diverted down there to watch and kind of send a signal, don't go there. To have this happen just a few days later with the U.S. Navy involved, it just shows how close Iranian and U.S. naval warships and military assets are over there. And just, these things can get very tense very quickly.
This vessel, the Maersk Tigris, was apparently traveling in the Strait of Hormuz when it was intercepted by ships from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Navy. Apparently, it was several patrol boats that were in the area. Now, a U.S. source says that what happened was that these Iranian ships ordered the Maersk Tigris to go deeper into Iranian waters. Originally, the master of this ship declined that order. However, then the Iranian boats fired several shots across the bow of the cargo vessel, and at that point, the master complied. The latest information that we have is that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Navy then boarded this ship. It's unclear what happened afterwards. What happened, however, was that this ship did send an emergency signal, and that reached U.S. forces that were in the area as well. A U.S. warship made its way towards the area. However, it appears as though it came too late, and at that point, this cargo vessel was already very deep inside Iranian waters. We do know, however, that the U.S. sent several aircraft to monitor the situation. Now, this ship, the Maersk Tigris, is flagged under the Marshall Islands flag, which is a country that does have a security compact with the United States. However, at this point, it's unclear whether or not the U.S. is planning to do anything to try and get the ship released. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Berlin.
Video footage released by the Indian TV station NDTV shows that the aftermath at the Mount Chumulama base camp on Saturday of the massive earthquake. Witnesses said the avalanche began on Mount Pumori, a 7,000-meter high mountain just a few kilometers from Mount Chumulama. It gathered strength as it headed towards base camp and the lower reaches of Mount Chumulama's climbing routes. The footage by NDTV shows climbers tending to the injured, while some climbers were killed. The crew was at the base camp to film the start of the climbing season and was stranded for more than 48 hours of the earthquake. They were evacuated by military helicopters on Monday.
Now, Saudi airstrikes targeting the international airport in the Yemeni capital Sana'a have forced an Iranian plane carrying medicine to change route. The plane was forced to change course after Saudi warplanes hit the control tower. The plane had received permission to fly to Yemen via Omani airspace to deliver urgently required medicine for those injured in the Saudi aggression. One of the airstrikes on Sana'a International Airport set a plane from Saida Airlines ablaze.
Several flights into Baltimore's airport were canceled early this morning, including at least one flight originating from Bradley International Airport. 22 News reporter Julie McDonald went to Bradley to talk with air travelers and joins us live from the newsroom.
Yeah, those early flights were canceled because of the last night's intense rioting that took place throughout the city. More than 150 fires were set and stores were looted for hours. Other flights between Bradley and Baltimore went on as scheduled throughout the day today, but Southwest's first early morning flight from Bradley and another about the same time from Logan and Boston were canceled. We talked to one traveler who said the only reason he was still going to Baltimore was because it was for a business trip that didn't require him to leave the airport there.
It just seems out of control. right now. There's I think a lot of overreaction. I've had some other people, say, oh, you're going to Baltimore? I wouldn't be going down there right now.
The Baltimore Orioles games Monday night and tonight were postponed until next month. Tomorrow's game against the Chicago White Sox will happen, but it'll be closed to the public. There won't be anyone in the stands.
Feeling today, huh?
One body.
You doing all right?
Two faces.
How you feeling?
A phenomenal creation, a curious sight.
It's a two-headed calf. I cannot believe it. I've heard of them, but I've never seen one before, and this is my first one.
In more than 60 years of raising cattle, a first of its kind here.
Every day she's been getting some milk.
And Mom is never too far away.
She will come in and lick her and just smell of her and all and make sure that she's okay, I guess, and then she goes back out and she'll stay gone a while and come back and check on her again.
Okay, so the calf may have two sets of eyes, a pair here and a pair here, but Cruz believes that the two middle eyes aren't actually seeing anything, and he believes that she only has one brain, so he thinks that most likely she's only seeing one image.
Get her to get a taste of it and she might start sucking.
She's bottle feeding now, and Cruz says when one mouth is feeding, the other mouth suckles at the same time.
She is. I would like to see her live and actually be able to get up and walk and function. See, her legs just won't cooperate as far as standing up.
But she's weak, and her head is heavy. Ripley's Believe It or Not says the longest a two-headed cow has lived is 40 days. Which means, sadly, in this situation, two heads are not always better than one.
If you say 10 p.m., you mean 10 p.m. This is the first night that certainly everyone needs to get used to this rule being in place, but the police department has to enforce. I think they will enforce, but I think they're taking their time at this point, trying to do it in the most peaceful way possible, again, with the world's eyes on them and how they're handling this.
So, Cedric, would you have done a curfew? Do you think that's the right thing?
Well, here's the thing, Don. There's no easy answer to that. Every community is very different. If we go back to Ferguson, right, and the optics at Ferguson were absolutely horrible after they imposed a curfew. So what it appears to me that Baltimore is trying to do is do something a little different here, not be as confrontational, but of course they know they got to get the mission done.
Chris, I want to get back to you because, Chris, we saw the young man with his with the mask on and his hands up and then almost hit by that armored vehicle. What did you see that? What's going on?
He wasn't almost hit by that armored vehicle. They drove the vehicle up, and when it got close enough to create a wedge, they ran out and grabbed him, pinned him against that, and then arrested him. They must have perceived, rightly or wrongly, we don't know, but that he was part of this group that was throwing things at them. When he tried to come up the street the first time with his hands up, they were shooting the pepper bullets at him, and he ran back with this other group. He then reapproached again. They let him come. He came across. He told all the media, you need to disperse, when, again, this curfew is not about us. It's about whoever was creating unrest last night. And then as he was walking back and forth, the Humvee came and they used it as an opportunity, and he's being taken into custody right now, apparently.
Movement. Here we go. This young man is back again. He has decided that he wants to throw something at officers. The officers are moving in. He's now going to be arrested. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So one person has turned this entire quiet area. We are being sprayed with mace. We are being sprayed with pepper spray. So this calm thing has turned over very quickly. I just got sprayed back in my face. The cops should be able to do this. It definitely does hurt. So you can see how quickly one person can turn this whole thing around. The cops, once they were hit by that
Brian,
one person,
are you okay?
To spray back into the crowd. It hurts a little bit, but
Ryan, let me cut you off
for a little bit.
Let me cut you off. I want you to be okay and grab some water to you and your crew.
Say Baltimore is stable after violent protest over the death of Freddie Gray. The National Guard helped enforce a mandatory 10 p.m. curfew for the entire city last night. Protesters eventually dispersed, but police arrested 10 people after the curfew went into effect.
The unrest forced Major League Baseball to make the unprecedented move to ban fans from this afternoon's Orioles game. Jeff Begay begins our coverage. He is in Baltimore. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. As you can see behind me this morning, this intersection is open once again. Traffic is moving through it. People are going back to work. Kids are going back to school. But overnight, this was the intersection that was the scene of the largest clashes with police. And this morning, police are still stationed at all four corners of this intersection. You see them right over there in riot gear. They are not taking any chances. The citywide curfew took effect at 10 o'clock. But people remained on the streets, some throwing bottles and rocks. Officers dressed in riot gear launched smoke canisters into the crowd. Protesters hurled them right back. In the moments leading up to the curfew, the message was loud and clear. Self-appointed peacekeepers pleaded with people to get off the streets, including Congressman Elijah Cummings.
I ask you to quietly go home.
And Vietnam veteran Robert Valentine.
Y'all want to go home now? I don't want to see y'all get in no trouble out here. It's not worth it. You cannot prove anything with your anger. If you use your mind and do it pacified, you can get further. Sit down to the table and talk.
A recorded message was blasted across the city, on the ground and in the sky, warning people to go home. The overnight confrontation came after a day of mostly peaceful protest. There was singing and dancing, uplifting moments like this little boy reaching out to officers.
We have to do better by this, because this cannot happen again. It cannot.
The police presence grew by more than 2,000. Neighboring states sent in reinforcements. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan activated the National Guard.
This combined force will not tolerate violence or looting.
It was all to prevent the chaos and violence of the day before, when protesters, many of them teenagers, took to the streets, trashing businesses and destroying most anything that got in their way. Baltimore mother Toya Graham became a symbol of a frustrated city, caught on camera as she pulled her son from the violence.
I can't imagine what Freddie Gray's mother is going through, and I don't want to lose my son to the streets.
Take a look behind me. This CVS was boarded up this morning. It was set on fire the first day of the clashes with police. The cleanup that began here yesterday will continue here today across the city. Gail.
All right, Jeff, thank you.